Ciao, I'm Mary Ann Esposito. Today on Ciao Italia, fazzoletti, crespelle, and pezzole della nonna. Different words in Italian have different connotations. And today I'm going to show you just how confusing it could be, because we're going to make something called fazzoletti. Fazzoletti translates to little hankies, and it's actually a crepe that we're going to fold over to look like a little pocket hanky. In other parts of Italy, this is called crespelle. In other parts of Italy, this is called pezzole delle nonne. So you see what I mean? There's just so many words to describe so many foods. So you can call it fazzoletti, you can call it crespelle, you can call it pezzole delle nonne, whatever you want to call it. Here's how you make it. So you want to start with 2 whole eggs and an egg yolk in a bowl, and you whisk those up till they're fluffy, broken up. And what I'm going to do for you today with the batter, because this turns out to be a batter, is that I'm going to make one batter rather, but I'm going to show you 2 ways to use it. One, a savory way, and one, a sweet way. So there are our eggs, and now we want a pinch of salt, a grinding of nutmeg, some melted butter, about a tablespoon of melted butter. Get that all beat in. And it's best to make this batter ahead of time. Let it rest overnight in the refrigerator. It should have the consistency of pancake batter. So now you're going to need about 1½ to 1 3/4 cups of milk, or a little bit or a little less, just depending on the flour. So I'm going to put some milk in first. So to be on the safe side, I would say between 1½ and 2 cups of flour, and 1½ to 1 3/4 cups of flour. So let's put a little flour in and get that going. So we've all made pancakes, so we know what pancake batter is supposed to be like. And I know that that's just too thin. So add a little bit more. And that's looking a little too thick. So we're going to add some milk. And out of a batter like this, you can make about 24 fazzoletti or crespelle. Use a, depending on what size frying pan you're using, you've got to use a non-stick frying pan for this. So there's all the flour. You can either make these in a non-stick 6-inch diameter pan, or use something a little bigger, like an 8-inch. Put in a little bit more milk. So after you've made a bunch of these, you'll know exactly what the consistency should be. So what happens here is, once you've got it all fluid, it should be like pancake batter, see? Like that. Then you want to cover it, put it in the refrigerator, go to bed. Next day, you're ready to make these. So making the fazzoletti, crespelle, the pezzole delle nonne is a process. So you want to start with a non-stick pan, and I've got it just heating over low heat. Here's the batter. So overnight, the batter is going to thicken up a little bit. So you just, if it seems too thick to you, just add a little milk, see, to thin it down. Add a little bit of milk. Okay, so now we need to have some butter ready, and I have sheets of wax paper ready, because as I make them, I'm going to put the crespelle, the fazzoletti, the pezzole delle nonne in between sheets of wax paper. So the first thing you do is butter the pan. Okay? Not soak it with butter, but just lightly butter the pan. Then, getting that heat up a little bit. When the butter starts to sizzle a little bit, you can swirl it around in your pan. Then you can add your crepe batter, see? And what you want to do is, you need to swirl it a little bit, Just swirl it a little bit till it makes a nice circle. You can press the pan a little bit like that, shake the pan. So now you have to let this cook until that sets up, and you'll know it's ready when this is firm on the top, and you can flip it to the other side. All right, so you can see it's starting to firm up and it's moving as one unit. So you turn it over because you want to have that nice brownish look to it. I swear it was Catherine de' Medici that brought this idea to the French. So you cook it a little bit on the other side. Then you have, as I say, a plate handy. Okay? And then you just put it on that. Then you cover it with another sheet of wax paper, and you continue on. So you may have to, in between, just brush the pan a little bit. And so this batter will make at least 24. But then what we have to do is make the different fillings that we're going to use for this, because I did tell you I'm going to do one that's savory for you and one that's sweet. So that's the beauty of using this dough. You can do two different things with it. So it's setting up here. We don't want to turn it yet because I can tell it's still wet. We have to just wait until we can turn the whole thing, and then we just continue on like that. Now that we've made the fazzoletti, crespelle, pezzole delle nonne, we are going to work on the filling, the savory filling. And for that, we want cheese. And I mean really good Italian imported cheeses. So here we have two wonderful cheeses. We have Asiago, which comes from, of course, Asiago in the Veneto, northern Italy. This is a cow's milk cheese. Very nutty flavor, it's delicious. And it's great as a melting cheese as well as an eating cheese. And here we have the Fontina cheese. This is from the Val d'Aosta area of Italy, and it is a DOP cheese. And you can also notice that here we have a browned rind. So when you go to the grocery store and you're looking for Fontina cheese, if it has a red rind, that is not Italian Fontina. You'll know it by the browned rind. This is also a cow's milk cheese, and it's a lot softer than the cow's milk Asiago, which is also a DOP cheese. So we want a half a cup of each of those. So I'm going to take about that much, and you'll notice I'm using this knife, which is my little cheese knife. I take off the brown rind, and then you just want to cut it up. It's all going to get melted, so you don't have to worry about this. So you want about a half a cup of this, just cube it up. And this particular filling is going to be so smooth and creamy, and of course it's going to be very, very rich. So that's our first cheese. I'll put that in a bowl right here. And always have cheeses at room temperature, whether you're eating them or you're going to work with them. It'd be easier to deal with. Here we have the Asiago cheese, DOP. And for this, we need a little sturdier knife. So I'm going to take another section of cheese off of this. And when I was in the town of Asiago, I saw this cheese being made. It's an artisanal product. And the artisan cheesemakers are very particular about Asiago, and depending on what time of year it is, if it's spring, the cheese will taste a lot different than it does in the fall. So we're going to cut that up. And you see it's a little harder cheese than the Fontina. Okay, there's our Asiago. That goes in the bowl. And then with it we have some provolone cheese. Provolone is a southern Italian cheese, cow's milk cheese that is now made really in the north of Italy. So I've got that grated, so I'm going to add that. And now we're ready to make the filling. To make the sauce, you want to melt 6 tablespoons of butter. in a deep pot because you're going to add a lot of milk to this. And you're going to make a roux. A roux means a paste, and we want here a blonde roux. We don't want a brown roux. Brown roux would mean that you would cook the flour until it turned color. Here we want to keep the flour really blonde. So we have 3/4 of a cup of flour that we are going to whisk into the butter. Whisk that into the butter till it's all combined. And do not worry if it starts to look a little lumpy. It's all going to straighten out in the end. So once you have it all mixed like that, you can start adding the milk, and you need 6 cups. So get your 6 cups of milk in. The roux will start to come together. And we're going to cook this until it starts to coat the back of a spoon. So that was 4 cups of milk. Here's the other 2 cups of milk going in. And with this, we're going to add some nutmeg. So a grinding of nutmeg goes in, as much as you would like. I like nutmeg in this. And of course, a little bit of salt. Okay, and now we whisk. We whisk, we sing a song until this gets thick. Now this milk mixture is really starting to thicken up. See, look, it's starting to coat the back of a spoon. So when it does that, you know that that's the time to add the cheeses. So here are all the cheeses. And now we whisk them in over medium-low heat, and that's going to thicken this sauce even further. Once all the cheese is melted, then we can put the fazzoletti, the crespelle, the pezzole della nonna together. So you can see how that has thickened up into a beautiful sauce. Now, if you're going to make this ahead of time and you're going to put this together on another day, cover it with a piece of buttered paper and put it in the refrigerator. But we're going to make this for you right now. So here's how this goes. You have a casserole dish that's buttered. Okay, and then you just start with those crespelle that you made. I'm going to take some of that filling, spread it, see, right on the crepe, all around, because you're going to put some of this over the top as well. And then, to get the fazzoletti, crespelle, pezzole della nonna look, you fold the crepe over, or the fazzoletto, and you fold it again like that, see? And you put it in your bake pan. Now you want to do this so that they're overlapping one another. And by the way, did I mention that you could also make these crespelle ahead of time, and you can put them between wax paper and freeze them. And then when you want to put this together, all you have to do is make the filling. So don't go all the way to the edge because you don't want that to ooze out. Fold it again. And that's where it gets its name, because it looks like a little hanky, you know? So just overlap. And you keep going like this until you have a whole pan full. And 2 of these is a serving. I would serve this as a first course. But there are people who would say, that's what I'm having for dinner with a salad. So now we have them ready to go, and we take some of this cheese sauce and pour it right over the top, or spread it over the top. See? Your oven is on at 350 degrees, and you're going to bake these for about 20 minutes or so, just until they start to look a little crusty on the top. They're very delicate. Beautiful. And then we want to put some grated Parmigiano Reggiano over the top. So we've got 4 cheeses in here. The Fontina, the Asiago, the Provolone, and the grated Parmigiano Reggiano. Naturally, we need a little bit of butter, right? So just a little drizzle of butter. 350. You won't be able to eat just 2, but you won't have to because there's also a sweet version of this. So ricotta cheese, drained, so it's in a bowl. And then we add confectioner's sugar. You can add about 1/3 to 1/2 of a cup for a pound, or if you want to make it less, you can do that. So the sugar goes in, and just mix that in. And then we're going to lighten the ricotta by adding some heavy cream, but we're going to whip the cream first. So confectioner's sugar and a little dash of nutmeg goes in. So there's our nutmeg. So we set that aside, and now we whip our cream. So here we have 1/2 a cup of heavy cream, heavy whipping cream. There's a difference between heavy cream and whipping cream, and the difference is that whipping cream has stabilizers in it. So I usually do that with a handheld beater, but before I do, I get a piece of plastic wrap, put it right over the bowl, okay? Like that. And you're saying, what the heck is she doing? Well, what she's doing is she's going to prevent splatters. So you put a little hole right there. Okay? Just like that. This comes from years of being splattered. And then you get your beater right in there. See? Nothing on me, nothing all over the house. All the little splatters stayed in the bowl. So that's a little trick for when you whip cream. So now we can add that to our ricotta. So there's our 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And now we fold that in. Gorgeous. This is going to be our filling. So now we're going to add some fruit to it. So here you have options here. You can do fresh strawberries, apricots. I have some blueberries here, so let's put some blueberries in. Fold those in. And then I like raspberries with this, so let me tell you a little bit about raspberries. So when you get them home, you want to take them out of that container they're in and line them up. I know this sounds crazy, but this is going to make your berries last a whole lot longer. You can do this with any kind of berry, really, that's soft like this. And just put them on paper towel so that they dry a little bit. And when you can put them in the refrigerator with like this, so they'll stay without molding. Because when they're close together like this in an enclosed package that isn't breathing, they are going to mold very quickly. How many times have you taken them back to the grocery store because they've been moldy? So you line them up like that on your paper-lined dish. Then you cover them with plastic wrap. You put them in the refrigerator. When you're ready to use them, you wash them very gently with a light spray, because they're very fragile. Dry them carefully, and then you can go ahead and use them. So These are already done, so we're going to put them right here in with the blueberries. And if you wanted to cut them up into smaller pieces, you could do that as well. So gently fold them in. Boy, this is this is looking pretty good to me. I don't know about you. Okay, then let me show you how this goes with the Fazzoletti, Crespelle, the Pezzole delle Nonne. So now we have our crepe shells again. Here we go. And you do the same thing that you did with the savory version. You stick some right there. Try not to mash it too much. Okay, in the center. And then fold, press a little bit, and then gently fold over. Okay. Place on your dish. So let's do another one because 2 is a serving. Also with this it would be nice to have honey, warm honey drizzled over the top. This is a great summer dessert because that's when we have fresh berries available. So I'm going to get a couple berries there. Again, you fold it over, press down a little bit, bring it over. Doesn't that look great? Put it there. And then we have some confectioner's sugar ready. Extra confectioner's sugar. Over the top. Add a few berries on the plate. A few raspberries. Like so. And there you have it. Fazzoletti, Crespelle, Pezzole della Nonna. Fazzoletti, Crespelle, Pezzole della Nonne. Whatever you call them, they are gorgeous and absolutely delicious. So here we have the Crespelle, the Fazzoletti, whatever you want to call them. We made the shell, remember, from a batter of flour and eggs, and then we formed it into a crepe in a pan and filled it with 3 different cheeses. And it's all ready to eat. A great first course. And hey, you can use the same batter and make this into a dessert. So here we have our crepes filled with ricotta and whipped cream. We folded in some raspberries and blueberries and sugar and gave it a little powdered sugar over the top. It's all ready for you to enjoy. So until I see you nella cucina again, I'm Mary Ann Esposito. Ciao. I don't know if you know this, but capers grow in rocks and crags, and you see them mainly in the walls. And here in Umbria, I've noticed that this caper bush is growing inside this wall. And you probably know the capers from Sicily, the ones that come from Pantelleria. Beautiful capers, but look at the size of these. And these are you harvest these in the fall. And then you put them in olive oil or you put them in vinegar. And you let them steep in the vinegar for a while, and then you can use them in your cooking. So I like to use them with meats, sometimes with vegetables, and I love them if you do them with pasta and tuna. Absolutely delicious. So this is what a caper bush looks like, and it grows in very strange places. As I say, walls and crags and anywhere that you have kind of a little drier climate. So the next time you buy a jar of capers, you'll remember that this is what the plant looks like. There's a little one just coming out right now. Capiti.